I think this one's a little bit. Shaun of the Dead was funny. 28 Days Later was sort of that time. This has got a deep message. It's also got a little girl in the centre who is fantastic. And it sort of questions our situation right now, especially after Brexit. It feels relevant.
And how bizarre a life experience was it, running around the British countryside from flesh-eating zombies with Glenn Close?
Yeah, that was one of the most surreal periods of my life. Especially, there's a scene where we have a fight and I slap her. And we were just giggling the whole time. I mean, I hit her around the face and then she goes, "Was that cathartic?" And it was. I mean, finally I got to hit Glenn Close around the face. No, she was so up for it as well, and it was very bizarre, but really, really good fun.
The script is a real sort of page turner, isn't it? What particularly resonated with you?
Well, I'm not usually into zombie type movies. There's been some good ones, but they're not usually my bag. This one really spoke to me because it's very humane. It's about human beings, it's about love, it's about human emotion. It's about so many things. It's very, very deep. There's social politics in there. It's about evolution. There were so many things. Also, I just loved that it's centred around a young girl, so it had this sort of innocence to it. And really exciting new voices. Mike Carey, just the most compelling. I mean, I'm sure you've spoken to him. An incredible man with a totally different way of thinking and telling stories. Camille Gatin, who is just this fantastic female producer, who I'm like, yes, you are going to change the world. And then Colin McCarthy, who is just this, a really exciting addition to British cinema. It's like, yes, we've got someone that's really going to get willing to take risks with a vision. He really is a visionary. He's great with actors and storytelling. So there were so many things. And then the cast came along and I thought, wow, this is fantastic.
It's a no-brainer. And for an actor, you study human behaviour as part of your everyday life. So you're playing a behavioural psychologist. So was that interesting to explore as well?
Yeah, and somebody that's sort of in a situation of desperation, but really trying to clutch onto the humanity, really trying to see the humanity and the good in everything, and the innocence, trying desperately to see the innocence. So actually, she's a teacher, but she ends up learning more from Melanie than anyone. She really is a sponge. She starts off with all the the stories, but actually ends up being Melanie that's the leader. I loved that being able just to be there to allow for Melanie to shine was really a nice thing to do.
Hi Gemma, Scott from Hey You Guys.
How are you?
I'm alright, how are you? I think you're a bit sick of us. I think you spoke to us quite a lot in the last week.
But it's so good.
That's good, I'm glad.
And you guys like the film, I think.
They might
Tell
have.
me.
I didn't. No, I did. No, I did. Of course I did. It's brilliant. Obviously, on the face of it, it's got a zombie feel to it, but also it's a very human story and a great connection between you and Sanya's character. Was it that connection and that combination that spoke to you when you read the script?
Yeah, it was. I didn't know about Mike Carey's work. I didn't really know what the premise was when they sent me the script. I just read it and I was sort of taken away by it. I was really moved by it, and it, all of the kind of jargon, the sort of zombie jargon just washed over me, and I just connected into the actual heart of it, which is about humanity and about the youth rising and about how we're all killing each other for survival. And I wanted to do a film. I've been wanting to work with a younger actor for a while, just to see what that's like, because it can be can throw you off a bit. And I wanted to sort of actually give over to another actor and just be there for them, supporting them. And that's what this part was for me. It was all about making her shine and the star and flourish, and not just at Senya, but for the character. It's about supporting somebody. And I met Colin. He was fantastic. He's just a really exciting addition to British cinema, I think, and he's got great taste, great with actors, really great with actors. Treats every actor. They're all the way he directed Glenn was the same way not same way, but with the same sort of tone as he had directed Senya. There was no condescension. There was nothing. You know, he was so wonderful with Senya. I can't explain. And she's also wonderful. So wonderful.
My next question was going to be about Senya. I mean, she's a great talent and she's absolutely extraordinary in this film. It must have been amazing to have someone like her next to you in this film.
Yeah, I adored working with her. We all did. We all fell in love with her a little bit. She's really special. She's really unaffected. I think even if whatever happens to her in the future happens, I think she's got a really good head on her shoulders. It's one of the reasons why we cast her in this film. We felt like she was really, really sharp, intelligent, quite worldly, considering that she'd never left Nottingham before making this film. She had this she was very wise and regal, very elegant. You felt like she could lead. So I don't worry about her. And on film set, she was so great. She didn't ever complain. It was really challenging, the role that she had, and she just went for it. She really threw herself into it fully. Yeah, and I've been hearing the best stuff. People have been feeding back to me all these amazing comments and compliments. I haven't told you yet. I don't know, it's okay. But she's fantastic. It makes me so happy to hear them.
Just very quickly, you got to work with one of my favourite actors, Glenn Close. How was that?
Oh, fantastic. I just loved working with her. I felt like I was working with the kind of Premier League, Paddy Considine. I was like, what am I doing here again? Smack myself. But she's like in another league. And but really, really fun, down to earth. She cut her own hair. One day she inspired me. She picked up a pair of scissors and went, my hair shouldn't be like this. She'd have cut her own hair. She just cut her own hair off. And that was her hair for the film. I mean, she's real. She's real. I love that.
I'm getting the wind up behind you as well. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. Cheers.
I think the script is so unique. It has a deeper meaning to it than just a regular zombie movie. It's something about humanity, about how we treat each other. It's about evolution. It's about the youth rising. It's so many things. And I loved the connections, the human connections in the film. It felt the fact that it's from the centres around a young girl, completely fresh, brought a completely fresh spin to the genre. It's got a real tenderness to it, delicacy. So it just felt completely unique to me. And also I wanted to work with Colin. I think he's the most exciting young director. So exciting.
We're really lucky with the cast. We're really lucky to have Hollywood superstars and, the finest leading lady in the UK and the doyen of kind of British serious cinema, and this incredible find for a young girl. We were really lucky.
We were absolutely lucky. It's really funny because when Mike started writing the book, he said to me, I'm writing this with Paddy Considine in mind. So it was the dream cast. And for Caldwell, we really wanted to get someone just amazing who wouldn't just look evil, but someone who could convey the fact that she's trying to save humanity. And Glenn delivered that and then some.
We got on so well. She's such a fabulous woman, and you never know how, you invent things in your mind, and she totally subverted them. She's so cool, down to earth, real, and up for a laugh, and she gets down and dirty. She cut her own hair off in this film. She's badass.
Rise and shine, come on up you get. Transit.
Hello, Dr. Caldwell.
Hello, Melanie.
Morning, class. I loved how it sort of freshened up the genre. It has a sort of there's something quite deep and tender about this film. Of course, there's all of the kind of gore and the flesh eating and all of that, but there's something really humane about it, and I just felt like it was another look at the genre. It also felt very relevant for the times, especially relevant now after Brexit and all of that lot. And also I wanted to work with exciting new filmmakers, and I think Hemi Guetta and Mike Carey and Colin McCarthy are these new voices, and I just wanted to get involved and work with them.
The process started with Mike's short story, and the thing that was most exciting about that in terms of creating a movie was the central character that he'd conceived of in Melanie, and the tensions of an innocent monster in the context of a zombie film. It was really exciting.
I first read a short story that he'd written, which is essentially the first 5 minutes of the film, and I absolutely fell in love with the character of Melanie. And I'd never seen a character like that who doesn't realise she's a monster, but also is incredibly emotional and absolutely loves Gemma Arterton's character, and I thought that was a really interesting premise.
I think possibly the answer is Melanie. There have been obviously hundreds, if not thousands, of zombie narratives. I think what we had going for us was a lead character that was sort of that hadn't been seen before. It's a zombie story told from a zombie point of view. The protagonist is a monster, but she has no idea that she's a monster, and she is also an innocent. She's a child. She's got the enthusiasm and the emotional openness of childhood. So she's very, very easy to engage with. And then once you engage with her, once you start to sympathize with her, you realize what else she is. It was actually incredibly liberating because I was working basically the whole of my waking life. I was in that world. I was in Melanie's world. And the two versions in some ways stayed very, very faithful to each other, very similar, and in other ways they diverged. But it was as though each version made the decisions that I was making for the other version easier. It illuminated what the key issues were, what the key storytelling challenges would be, and how we should get around them.
It was awesome. You know, Tip was great. The Midnight Madness screening for the film, the audience were just really incredibly receptive to the movie. We had some very direct emotional contact from some of the people there, and the film resonated for some of them on a kind of emotional way that was beautiful.
It's really interesting to come back from such a different vibe. You know, in Midnight Madness, it's the really hardcore fans, and interestingly, we'd been at Fright Fest 2 weeks earlier, and the reactions were pretty much the same. Especially women find it really interesting to see a horror with so many women in it, and absolutely fell in love with the character of Melanie. And what's interesting is actually a lot of the reactions, people have had very personal reactions and have decided to interpret the story in connection with something really personal to them, which is always really lovely.
Is it good or bad to try to save humanity? I think that's good. You know, I mean, I think you work with what you know, right? And she has to believe that what she is called to do in order to create a cure for humanity, she has to suppress certain sides of her nature and to believe that what she's experimenting on is not a human being. And what's the alternative? I mean, I kept asking myself that, and also that character would say, what's the alternative? We'll all perish. So I liked it because it was she exists in the gray area, not black and white.
I love the script. I'm not usually a sort of zombie aficionado. I'm not my type of bag usually, but I read the script and it moved me. I found it very touching, a real insight into desperate times. It felt very, very relevant for now. I love that it centered around a young girl, which gave it a completely new angle. And I wanted to work with Colin. I met him and I just thought that he had a really different take. I could see he was a visionary, had great taste, great with actors. So everything spoke to me.
I've known Colin for a long time, for 7 or 8 years, and we've always dug the same stuff. We wanted to make an Aleister Crowley film, and we've always wanted to find really smart British genre films. And so when this story came along, it was a no-brainer, really.
Only having 5.5 hours of performance time a day kind of makes you really have to focus in on how you're going to construct a movie within the confines of a shooting day. And it was challenging, but I think it was also, focused our thinking in terms of how to shoot and approach scenes.
It was a very early decision. As you know, in the novel there are 5 point of view characters. It's all of the adults as well as Melanie. You get to see inside their heads. But it's very, very easy to do that in a novel, to switch point of view without losing momentum, without losing the impetus of the story. And I think it's more difficult in a film. We needed the audience to completely empathize with Melanie's perspective, and we felt that every cut away from that perspective would be risking everybody taking a step back and becoming disengaged from her.
We sent it out, we had amazing responses from agents, and our casting director was like, you can really aim high, and we did. And yeah, Glenn fell in love reading the first 10 pages of the script and then got on Skype with Colin, and 3 weeks later she was in Birmingham with us.
It was wonderful. It was like working with a very bright, open, unpretentious, unaffected little girl. I mean, I thought she was remarkable. I'm sure you've heard. I mean, she's never been out of Nottingham. So she's an amazing human being. She's a wonderful girl. Wonderful.
I'm working on a film called The Escape, which I am in and have written and am producing, and we start shooting in 2 weeks. It's about a woman who is having difficulty with married life and leaves her husband and children.
We're actually working on Mike Carey's next book, Fellside, which is a ghost story set in a women's prison.
So the novel that I had out in April of this year, Fellside, which is a ghost story set in a women's prison. I'm developing that with Poison Chef Productions, the same production company that did Girl with All the Gifts. I'm working on some TV screenplays, on another movie. I've still got a foothold in comics. I've just completed the prequel to Girl with All the Gifts, which is called The Boy on the Bridge. Completely different cast of characters, the same world 10 years before. I would love to try. We'd have to change it because the timeline of the film is slightly different, subtly different from the timeline of the novel. But I think it could be done.
I'm working on Krypton at the moment, which is David Goyer's penned, and it's set on the Superman's home planet, and it's about the ancestors and the genesis of the L clan. We start filming on the 10th of October, and it's looking like it's going to be really big, but I can't say a lot more than that.
Melanie, you can save everybody. Oh my God.
What did you do?